That sounded like shit. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my video. If you feel the need to like or subscribe, that would be badass. If not, well, that's cool too. You don't have to. You know, we could just chill out every once in a while, stop by, we'll talk in the comments. Everything's good. I know most of you guys that watch any of my videos, you know me as a video game streamer, Conqueror's Blade, usually. But today, I decided to do something a little different. I just got back a bunch of comics from CGC, and I want to share the grades with you. Without further ado, let's start checking out some comics. Okay, this first one, I actually bought when it came out. It came out in November 1992. It's Spider-Man 2099 #1. This is a newsstand edition. I got a 9.6, which is pretty good for a newsstand edition for this particular book. I bought this at a local convenience store down the road from my house, and when I went there, they have a small rack of comic books, and that was my first stop of the day when I would go comic hunting. And I grabbed all of them, and I paid for them, brought them home, and I threw them in a box, and that's where they stayed for about, I'd say, 12, 15 years. And I didn't put a bag on them. I didn't put a board on them, nothing. So I was pretty impressed that this one came out at a 9.6. After I dropped all these comics off at my house, I left and went downtown to a local comic shop. They had a very small shop down there. They had like one wall of comics and maybe 3 long boxes full of older comics. I went down there to see if they had any more because, I saw it was Spider-Man #1. So I was like, well, this is going to be the newest, greatest, latest thing. So I wanted to get all that I could. We actually had a limit on these books down at the shop, so I could only get one of them. But yeah, I kept these all these years and just sent them out to get graded not too long ago. And this one, I actually got a 9.8 on. That's usually how it goes, though. Like the newsstand editions are usually a little more beat up, just because they're going to drugstores, mom and pop shops, things like that, and they get a little more beat up than the direct editions do. But yeah, so I got lucky on that one. The main character of this book, his name is Miguel O'Hara, and actually, the writer of this book, Peter David, took the name Miguel from an actual friend of his and incorporated it into the name of this character. I thought that was pretty cool. If I was a writer, I would be using my friends' names all the time. But Miguel O'Hara is kind of like a Mexican-Irish name, and I believe that came from Miguel's mother had an affair with the father's boss. So, yeah, I mean, even in comics too, there's asshole people. Anyway, the penciler in this book is Rick Leonardi, and the person who inked this book is Al Williamson. Fun fact about this comic, this is the highest selling single issue of any comic book ever written by Peter David. I mean, can Al Williamson say the same thing? Is it the highest selling single issue of any comic ever inked by Al Williamson? I don't know. Does the internet have those facts? Can you look that up? I mean, is that something I can look up, 5 minutes before I make a video and pretend like I knew it all along? I don't know. Maybe. This book actually wasn't the first appearance of Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. His first appearance was in Amazing Spider-Man number 365, the black hologram cover of the 30th year anniversary edition. That came out in August 1992, and this book came out in November 1992. So there's a few months difference there. But then there's some more controversy. A lot of people think that the red hologram cover was actually his first appearance, and that was Web of Spider-Man number 90. And that one actually came out a couple months before the black cover did. So I guess I'll just let you guys fight that out in the comments. When I first got this book, I thought it was going to be the latest and greatest, new title that was going to take me to the moon. But it just seemed like every time I looked it up, year after year, it was always $8, like forever. Like even into the 2000s, it was always $8. And I never thought it was going to move. But then last year, 2023, the movie Across the Spider-Verse came out, and it actually had, Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara in it. And it just seemed like the price jumped. It jumped like a 9.8 was around 250, 260 at the time. It's come down quite a bit. to about maybe 130, maybe 120. You probably get lucky and get one for 90, you know. But I think the next Spider-Man 2099, you know, movie that he makes an appearance in, when that comes out, I think it'll jump back up there. But this newsstand copy is the 9.6, and the direct copy is a 9.8, and they're actually both worth about the same amount, because the newsstand edition is worth a little bit more, and it kind of counterbalances the 9.8. This next comic is one that I bought probably 2 months after it came out, and it is X-Men 266, first full cover appearance of Gambit. I'm going to say it that way because is it really the first appearance of Gambit? Kinda not. Kinda. His first actual appearance, everybody's saying, including me, was X-Men Annual number 14. And I know a lot of people are saying that the annual he was in was just a cameo appearance, but I read the book, and he was in like over a page and a half, and they used his name, and he made like a full body appearance. So I don't know. I guess I'll let you guys fight that out in the comments also. And if you guys haven't seen X-Men Annual number 14, I have a copy right here. I haven't graded it yet, but maybe in the future, just so you guys can see what it looks like, and maybe if you see it in a bargain bin somewhere, you can pick it up. It's getting there, though. It's getting a little bit more expensive. The cover looks a little busy compared to X-Men number 266, and to be honest, X-Men 266 is probably the book that everybody wants. The writer of this book was Chris Claremont. The pencil was done by Michael Collins, and the cover art was done by Andy Kubert. Interesting story. I actually went down to the local comic shop probably 2 months after this book came out, and I asked the guy there. They had like 3 long boxes of old back issues, and I was like, "Do you have X-Men number 266?" Because I heard there's this new character Gambit in it, and I thought, wow, this Gambit character is going to be the new latest and greatest thing again. And the guy's like, "Yeah, we got one in the box over there." And so I went and I checked it out, and the back of it had this weird rippling thing going on. It was like a spot like this big, and it was like very small but straight wrinkles in it. And then it had like a little tear in it like that. And I remember there was a $7 price tag on it. Actually, it was an $8 price tag. And I went up to the guy, and I'm like, "Hey, do you, it has this rippling back here, and it has this little tear. Do you think I could get it, $1 off, like $7?" And he's like, "Let me see that." And he takes the book, and before I could do anything about it, he rips off some tape, off the tape dispenser, puts a tape on that rip. And I'm like, "What are you doing? You just ruined that book. You don't put tape on comic books." Because I've seen tape on comic books like that have been on there for 10 years, and it just gets all yellow and goopy and stuff. And the guy kind of felt bad, for doing that, I guess. He obviously wasn't a collector himself. He's just a kid that worked there. And he actually gave me the book for $7. I had that X-Men 266 book for a long time, and then I ran into a problem. Some guys robbed my storage unit, and they must have grabbed the box of comics, and that comic was in it. I also lost a bunch of Pit comics and some Spawn comics, and what else was in there? My X-Men 266 was in there. Oh, Punisher. I had like probably 5 Punisher number 1s, and like 3 of them were in there. And they must have got that box because I never saw them again. I didn't actually notice the comics were gone out of my collection until about 6 months ago, when I started getting into collecting comics again and grading them and stuff. And I was just distraught over it, pacing back and forth for days. For days, I would talk to anybody about me missing this X-Men 266 comic. I was like, "Man, someone stole that comic. I really like that comic, because I wanted to, fix it up, clean it, press it, get it shipped out." But yeah, so I talked myself into buying one off of eBay. I'm like, "Well, if I lost my Gambit X-Men 266 comic, I'm going to get another one." So I ended up buying this one for about $70, and it was pretty dirty. Had a few little minor wrinkles in it, but I thought I could press them out. And sure enough, I got the book. I cleaned it up. Took me hours to clean this book up, and I pressed it for 24 hours and sent it in, and I got a 9.6 on it. It was a pretty good investment for a $70 buy. But anyway, let's move on to the next. This next book I actually bought right when it came out in May 1992. And it is Spawn #1. I think everybody has a Spawn #1 in their collection. And I can't believe that this is the book I bought when I was a kid, and I actually got a 9.8 on it. I mean, when I bought comics as a kid, I didn't put them in bags and boards and and keep them nice. I just put them in a box, stacked them up on top of each other. And this book was printed with such high quality paper. The cover was high quality, thicker paper, that it just withstand the test of time. And it's just amazing. I probably put it in a board and bag, probably 15 years ago or something, but before then it just sat there, with all the elements. This book is probably worth about $150 at a 9.8, maybe a little more. It varies from time to time. But there was so many of these books printed when it came out. There's probably like 200,000 of these books printed, and there's probably 14,000 graded copies of this book. And that's probably why it's not worth as much as it should be, because it's really, really popular. The writer, artist, and the cover artist of this book was actually Todd McFarlane. He pretty much did the whole thing. He actually came out with the Spawn character before he even worked for comic books. He just held on to it and didn't want to show anybody his idea. He waited until he started his own company, and then he revealed the Spawn character that he created. Todd McFarlane didn't actually start reading comics until he was about 15 or 16. Before then, he didn't really know what comic books were. His real dream was to become a baseball player, a professional baseball player. But he suffered an injury that kind of put a damper on those plans. And then he decided he wanted to be a comic book artist. He had no art background, didn't know how to draw, and he was all self-taught. He would come home after work and spend 4 or 5 hours after work every day practicing drawing, figure drawings. He would draw whole scenes, whole pages. He'd fill a page full of all kinds of heroes. He would buy more comic books and try and mimic the stances and different poses of other comic book heroes. And he actually started turning in artwork to all the different comic book companies, and I believe he was sending in 30 or 40 different submissions a month. And by the end of the year, he turned in 700 submissions into, I think, Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, any comic book company that would take in submissions. I think the story goes that the artist that worked for the book, Coyote, either walked out or got fired or quit or something like that, and they didn't have anybody available to finish that book. And the execs were talking like, who are we going to get? We need somebody quick. And they looked on the desk, and lo and behold, Todd McFarlane's submission was sitting right there, because he would send in 30, 40 submissions a month. So one of those were sitting on the desk. So they gave him a call to see if he was available. And he's like, hell yeah. So he came in, and his first book was Coyote number 11, I believe. And he continued drawing that title. I think it lasted like 3 more books, and then it ended up fizzling out. But that's where he got to start, and the rest is history. I forgot to mention that newsstand copies of Spawn #1 are very rare, and it was probably like for every 10 books printed, there was 1 newsstand copy printed. But after publishing, those copies became less and less, because the mom and pop shops, the drugstores, the convenience stores, they had the capability of sending the books back if they didn't sell. They'd rip the cover off, send it back, and get a portion of their money back. And that's what happened to most of them. So the newsstand copies are worth way more than the normal direct copies. Anyway, let's move on. This next book is actually very sad. Yeah, I don't know why Marvel did it this way, but it's Amazing Spider-Man 700, The Death of Peter Parker. Actually, bought this book at cover price and sent it in and got a 9.8 on it. This is actually The Death of Peter Parker, and it's his last issue. In the story, him and Doc Ock changed bodies and minds, and in the end, it's like Doc Ock's body died with Peter Parker's mind in it, and I don't know what kind of message is that sending out. If you're a bad guy, the bad guy wins. If you're a bad guy, be bad enough long enough, and you'll outlive your competitor, or and end up with his family and friends and his life. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments about Spider-Man number 700. The real reason I bought this book was just because of the badass cover. I believe it was done by a French collage artist that goes by Mr. Garson. He cut out each individual figure one at a time to place them to create this awesome collage for the cover. The whole process took about a month. This book is actually 97 pages long. Has a few stories in it. It's packed full of information. But my favorite part, near the end of the book, it has 7 pages that have all the Amazing Spider-Man covers on it. They're like the size of stamps, just lining all 7 pages. And that is badass. This next book is a comic that's probably in everybody's collection. It is Wolverine number 1 of his limited series. This book came out in 1982. The month was September. Actually the same year as my favorite movie, The Thing, with Kurt Russell. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's awesome. This book was not Wolverine's first appearance. Everybody knows that his first cameo appearance was in Hulk 180, and his legendary fight scene was in Hulk 181. The writer of this is Chris Claremont, and the cover artist was the legendary Frank Miller. I also have the newsstand copy of this book. This is the one I actually purchased when I was a youngster, and it's in a little bit rougher shape. So I had to compare the two and decide which one to send in the CGC, and the direct copy pulled out ahead. So that's the one I sent in, and I ended up getting a 9.2. I was surprised at the 9.2. When I got the book, it was pretty dirty, not in the greatest shape, but I actually cleaned it up myself and pressed it and then sent it in. I was hoping for a 9.4, but I'll take the 9.2. I guess now's a good time to bring up the dreaded, if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. If not, that's also cool. Just check in on me once in a while, and let's talk about comics. This next book is Wolverine number 3 of the limited series. And I sent this one in just because I thought it would get a higher grade than it did. I mean, there wasn't any spine ticks. The corners were good. I don't understand why I got a 9.4. I was hoping for a 9.6 at least. But it is what it is. It came out in November 1982, and it is also written by Chris Claremont, and the cover is done by Frank Miller. I imagine this book is very difficult to get at a high grade because of the black cover. But I looked over this book, I cleaned and pressed it myself, and there's no spine ticks, not a lot of spine wear. The corners are good. I just don't understand why I got a 9.4 and not at least a 9.6. But I don't think it's worth like cracking open the case and resubmitting it, because the book isn't worth, a great deal of money. So I'd probably, be in the hole on it. So I guess for right now, it is what it is. Who knows? Something could happen. Something, a character could appear in the future that, made its first appearance in this book or something. And then it might be worth more. And then I would think more intensely on breaking it out of there. But for now, it's staying where it's at. All right, let's move on to the next one. Next on the list is DC Comics Presents number 47, and that came out July 1982, and it's featuring Superman and the Masters of the Universe. The story was done by Paul Kipperberg. The artwork was done by Kurt Swan and Mike DiCarlo. Ross Andrew did the cover. I cleaned and pressed this one. I had it in my collection since it came out, and it was in pretty rough shape, and I'm pretty amazed that it came out at a 7.5. An 8.0 would have been nice, but I'll take the 7.5. This book is the first appearance of He-Man and Skeletor in a comic book. I'm not really a He-Man fan. I'm kind of a Skeletor fan, but not really a He-Man fan. I just got this book graded, to actually sell it because I'm not a fan and I want to take the money and I kind of want to put it towards a book that I want more so than this one. But it is a fantastic book. And I'm not really a fan of He-Man, but I'm a fan of the story behind it because He-Man actually started out as a toy. It didn't start out as a movie, cartoon, not a comic, nothing like that. It was a company that brought the toy to investors, and they wanted them to invest in it. And the people at the company were like, "Well, there's going to be a comic, right? There's going to be a comic, telling the story of He-Man, right? So people get used to the toy and want the toy. It has some background." And the toy makers were like, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, there's going to be a comic. Yeah, we have it in the works right now. We're just not finished with it yet." And they went back to their office and started calling around to all the comic book producers, and they actually created a small comic to put in with the toys, and that's where the comic came from. And then they wanted to go to the investors to invest more money into their company, and they're like, "Well, there's going to be like an animated series, right? An animated series, about this toy is coming out, right?" And they're like, "Oh, hell yeah, we're going to have an animated series. We have people working on it right now." They actually didn't have any intent in coming up with a comic book or animated series of this universe. That was all ideas that come from the investors. If you want to catch the whole story behind that, it's very, very interesting. You can go to Netflix, and there's a show on there called The Toys That Made Us, and it's one of the episodes on there. Anyway, let's move on to the next comic. Okay, we're down to the last two books, and these two I didn't actually get graded. I bought them already graded, but I thought I would show them because they're kind of badass. This first one is What If number 31, and I actually got this as a substitute for Hulk 181 since I don't have Hulk 181. Does that make me like not a true collector that I don't have that one? But I thought this one was a good substitute. This is What If Wolverine Killed the Hulk, and it's the same fight scene, but just if it went the wrong way for the Hulk. And I thought it was pretty cool. And I actually looked it up. I'd never heard of this book. And I looked up substitutes for Hulk 181, and this is one of the ones that came up, and I thought it was pretty cool, so I got it. I actually had a chance to acquire the Hulk 181 off of eBay about 12 years ago. I saw a copy on there. It was like mid to low grade, and it was for $400. And my girlfriend at the time, I asked her, "Hey, do you think I can get this Hulk 181? I've always wanted this Hulk 181. It's a really popular comic, and it's only for $400." And she's like, "Hell no, $400? What are you, crazy?" So I didn't end up getting it, and I've been kicking myself in the ass ever since. This book came out in 1977, and I have an interesting story behind this one. I went on eBay, and I was looking around for a What If number 31, and I saw this one. It was cheaper. It was a 9.6, and it was cheaper than all the rest of the 9.6s out there. So, I clicked on it and I started looking at it, and I noticed the pictures they had for it were a 9.8, and I just thought the guy like messed up and put his 9.8 on there for a 9.6 book. So, I threw in a bid on it, and I ended up getting it, and I was like, cool, and I waited for a couple days to get it in the mail, and then I noticed there was an email on my eBay account, and I looked at it, and the guy said, "Yeah, I'm really sorry, I screwed up. That 9.6, I have a 9.6 and a 9.8, and I screwed the pictures up, and I actually put my 9.8 pictures on the 9.6 auction." And it's like, "Oh, that's cool, man. It's no big deal. Just send me the 9.6. It's no big deal." And he's like, "Well, since it's my bad, I'll just send you the 9.8. I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll just send you the 9.8 because, it was my bad and stuff. And, I don't want any hard feelings or whatever." And I'm like, you don't have to do that. You just send me the 9.6 or tell me, what, how much more money I'll have to give you for the 9.8, and I'll, send it to you." And he's like, "Nope, it's already on the way. Enjoy the book." And I'm like, "Well, shit," and I looked at his page. He has like a store on eBay, and he he had the 9.6 on there, and I was like, well, to counterbalance all that, I'm going to buy some more books from you. So that's how I felt good about myself from taking this one. But interesting story. I got this book on a steal. It's probably between the 9.8 and the 9.6. It's probably maybe 150, $200, $200 difference. So I really felt bad about taking it. This next book is Marvel Team Up number 65. It came out in January 1976. It's the first appearance of Captain Britain. I actually got this book as soon as I heard Henry Cavill might be Captain Britain. I jumped on the bandwagon, jumped on eBay, and I put in a bid on this book right away. I know I don't usually do that, but it just all seemed to make sense to me. And plus, it's a really good book. I got a really good price on it. I got this at a price that a lot of raw copies were going for, and this one was a way better copy. So, all those things put together, I just had to get it. It's a really, really sweet cover. This is another story by Chris Claremont, and the artwork was done by John Byrne and Dave Hunt. The cover art was done by George Perez and Joe Sinat. This is not only the first appearance of Captain Britain, but also the first appearance of Arcade and Miss Locke. And that's all the books I have for you today. And I'd just like to say thank you for stopping in and hanging out. And if you feel the urge to like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. But no pressure. You don't have to. Just stop in once in a while and check out the videos.